January 2025. Netflix launches With Love, Meghan. And for approximately 72 hours, the internet does what the internet always does when anything carrying the Sussex name lands in the public consciousness. It notices. It talks. It forms opinions. The press covers the launch with the kind of polite, measured attention that lifestyle programming from a globally recognizable former royal naturally commands. And then, with a speed that nobody in Montecito was prepared for, and with a finality that Netflix's own data would quietly confirm over the weeks that followed, it stops. The conversation stops. The algorithms move on. The cultural moment that a show of this profile, with this budget, with this level of strategic investment behind it, absolutely required in order to survive, that moment does not arrive. Or rather, it arrives briefly, incompletely, and then it dissolves into the vast, indifferent ocean of content that streaming platforms produce in industrial quantities every single week. And Netflix, the platform that released viewership figures for the Harry and Meghan documentary, with the kind of triumphant, chest-forward confidence of a company that knows it is sitting on genuinely extraordinary numbers, says nothing. No viewership data. No most watched designation. No algorithmic promotion visible in the platform's own recommendation engine that would suggest the show is performing at the level its production and talent warranted. Silence. And on Netflix, silence is not neutral. On Netflix, silence is a number. And tonight, we are going to work out what that number probably is. We are going to work out what it means. And we are going to ask the question that nobody in Meghan's circle is asking out loud, but that the commercial reality of 2025 is making impossible to avoid. Before we go any further, if you are new to this channel, welcome. We do not gossip here. We do not do speculation dressed up as analysis. What we do is forensic. We follow the strategy, the data, the silence, and the money, and we tell you what we actually find. If that is the kind of commentary you have been looking for, hit subscribe now. Because we have 4 topics left in this series, and the final 4 zoom out from the individual stories and ask the biggest question of all. Stay with us. You will want to be here for it. Now, let us get into it. To understand why With Love, Meghan matters so much beyond its individual performance. Why this is not simply a question of one show doing well or badly, you need to understand what the show was supposed to accomplish strategically. And to understand that, you need to go back. All the way back to December 2022, because that is where this story actually begins. December 2022. The Harry and Meghan Netflix documentary lands with an impact that exceeds even the most optimistic projections from inside Netflix's content division. It generated 81 million viewing hours in its first 4 days. 81 million. At the time of its release, that makes it one of the most watched documentary series in Netflix's entire history. Netflix releases those numbers with genuine, unambiguous pride. They are a validation of the entire Sussex Netflix deal. They are proof that they gambled the enormous, eyebrow-raising financial commitment Netflix made to 2 people who had, at that point, the great deal of public profile, but essentially no proven track record as content creators. That gamble had paid off. But here is what the documentary's extraordinary performance concealed. Here is the inconvenient truth that was buried underneath 81 million viewing hours and a global news cycle that ran for weeks. The documentary worked spectacularly. It worked beyond anybody's reasonable expectation, not because Meghan Markle is a compelling lifestyle presenter. Not because Harry is a charismatic documentary subject in the conventional sense. It worked because it had something that no lifestyle show, no cooking demonstration, no gracious entertaining segment, no flower arrangement tutorial can ever replicate. Conflict. Drama. The extraordinary, emotionally charged, globally compelling story of two people in open, explicit, on-camera conflict with one of the most powerful institutions in the world. People watched because they were watching a war. A family at war. An institution under siege. A woman describing, in her own words, the specific ways in which a centuries-old monarchy had failed her. People watched for the palace. People watched the drama. People watched because the royal family, the institution, the mystery, the curtain being pulled back on the most private and most scrutinized family on earth was the real subject of the film. Meghan was the vehicle. The royal family was the destination. And the question that every streaming strategist at Netflix and every communications advisor in Montecito had to answer after that extraordinary performance was simple and devastating. What do you do next? You cannot make the same documentary twice. The story has been told. The conflict has been narrated. The palace secrets have been aired. The grievances have been laid out, in detail, on camera, for a global audience. The audience has had the thing it came for. So what comes after the war? The Sussex team's answer, developed carefully across 2023 and 2024, and executed in early 2025, was lifestyle. Pull back from the royal drama. Build a Meghan who exists independently of the palace narrative. Create content that positions her not as a former royal at war with an institution, but as a warm, generous, culturally sophisticated woman sharing the pleasures of beautiful Californian living. Position her as a peer of Gwyneth Paltrow, of Ina Garten, of the women who have built enormous commercial enterprises out of the aspiration to live gracefully and abundantly. Link the content platform to the as-ever brand formerly American Riviera Orchard and create the kind of virtuous commercial cycle where great content builds audience loyalty, and audience loyalty converts into product sales. From a pure brand strategy perspective, it is a logical pivot. It is the kind of move that, on paper, in a strategy document, in a boardroom presentation, looks not just reasonable, but genuinely sophisticated. It was also, from a content performance perspective, a catastrophic miscalculation. Because the audience that watched Harry and Meghan was not watching because they were already fans of Meghan Markle the person. They were not pre-sold on her warmth, her lifestyle sensibility, her taste in tableware. They were watching because the royal family is the most compelling ongoing drama in British and arguably global cultural life. And Meghan's story, in December 2022, was inseparable from that drama. She was interesting precisely because of her relationship to the institution, the conflict, the rupture, the allegations, the extraordinary specificity of a biracial American actress who had married into the British royal family and was now, on a global streaming platform, describing what that experience had actually been like. Remove the royal family from the equation, and what remains? A charming, attractive, well-connected woman making food in a beautiful Californian kitchen. And there are, I say this not unkindly, but precisely a very large number of charming, attractive, well-connected women making food in beautiful Californian kitchens on the internet. The competition in that space is not light. The audience's loyalty in that space is not easily earned. And the thing that would have distinguished Meghan from every other lifestyle presenter on the platform, the extraordinary, unrepeatable specificity of her story, is precisely the thing the show was designed to move away from. Now let us be specific about what the data, or rather, the absence of data, tells us. Netflix operates a public viewership tracking system called the Netflix Engagement Report, a regular data release that covers the viewing hours accumulated by content on its platform. For shows that perform strongly, Netflix is extremely forthcoming with these numbers. They release them, they promote them, they use them as marketing for the platform itself. A strong performance figure from Netflix is a piece of corporate news. It gets covered. It generates further interest in the show. It is part of Netflix's own content strategy to amplify numbers when those numbers are good. In the weeks following the launch of With Love, Meghan in January 2025, Netflix did not release specific viewership data for the show in any of its standard reporting cycles. The show did not appear on Netflix's publicly available weekly global top 10 list, the ranking that reflects the most watched content on the platform in any given week in the way that a flagship, heavily promoted show from its most high-profile non-fiction deal would be expected to appear. Industry analysts, the people who track Netflix's content performance as a profession, whose entire job is to read these signals, noted the absence publicly and without ambiguity. The consensus assessment, expressed carefully but clearly, was that With Love, Meghan had not performed at the level that would generate the enthusiastic data sharing that Netflix deploys when it has good news to tell. And then there is the critical reception. Because the reviews tell a story too. Reviews of With Love, Meghan fell broadly into two categories. The first category, reviews that found the show charming, warm, and pleasant, but notably, almost universally, inessential. The word nice appears with a frequency that is almost comical in this category of review. Watchable. Inoffensive. Lovely, even. These are not, and I want to be very precise about this, these are not the words that drive streaming platform algorithms. They are not the words that generate the word-of-mouth conversation that sustains a show's viewership curve beyond its launch week. Nice does not trend. Lovely does not generate clip culture. Inoffensive does not make the kind of cultural noise that keeps a show alive in the recommendation engine long after its premiere date. The second category of review was more pointed. These critics, and they were not uniformly hostile, many of them were genuinely engaged with the question they were asking and identified what they described as a fundamental problem at the show's core. That Meghan Markle, who is a genuinely compelling media figure when she is fighting, when she is revealing, when she is in some form of visible conflict with powerful forces, is significantly less compelling when she is arranging flowers and discussing the philosophy of a thoughtful dinner party. That the show was asking its audience to be interested in Meghan Markle, the lifestyle curator, the warm hostess, the woman who cares deeply about beautiful tablescapes and the ritual of fresh produce from a local market. And that the audience revealed, ultimately, by the silence of Netflix's data release, was significantly more interested in Meghan Markle the story. The pivot from story to person has not worked. Now, here is where it becomes commercially structural rather than simply televisual. The show was not just a Netflix content piece. It was a brand launch vehicle. With Love, Meghan was designed to serve as the content engine for the As Ever lifestyle brand, the rebranded American Riviera orchard that Meghan has been building since 2024. The theory of the commercial case was coherent and genuinely intelligent. Create a Netflix show that builds the audience's relationship with Meghan as a lifestyle figure. Generate the kind of warm, loyal, aspirational connection that lifestyle content at its best creates between presenter and viewer, and then convert that relationship into commercial engagement with the As Ever product line. Content driving commerce. Brand building through storytelling. The model that has worked for Gwyneth Paltrow, whose Goop brand grew substantially off the back of her public persona and her content presence. The model has worked, in different forms, for countless lifestyle entrepreneurs who understood that in the modern commercial landscape, audience relationship is the asset, and products are simply the way you monetize it. But the model requires the content to perform. If the show does not build a broad, engaged, loyal viewership, if it does not successfully transition the audience's perception of Meghan from former royal embroiled in institutional conflict to trusted lifestyle guide, then the brand launch that depends on that transition has no foundation. It is built on sand. And the As Ever product line, which launched in spring 2025 to coverage that was notably more muted than the jam and celebrity gifting strategy of the American Riviera Orchard era, is operating without the content platform it needed underneath it. The products exist. The aesthetic is carefully and genuinely attractively constructed. The branding is professional. But the cultural moment, the specific point at which an audience is so engaged with a lifestyle figure, so invested in her world, so genuinely delighted by her presence, that they want to bring a piece of that world into their own lives by buying what she is selling. That moment has not arrived. And without the content platform performing, it is not clear how it arrives. Now, I want you to consider something. And I want you to consider it not as a criticism of Meghan, but as a forensic observation about how influence actually works in the current media landscape. At precisely the same moment that With Love, Meghan is generating its quiet, data-free aftermath on Netflix, consider where Kate Middleton sits in the global public consciousness. Kate, who has spent a significant portion of 2024 navigating a cancer diagnosis and treatment, returns to public life with an emotional resonance that no lifestyle show, no content strategy, no brand consultant could ever manufacture or replicate. She appears at Wimbledon. She wears a dress. That dress sells out across every retail platform that stocks it in under an hour. Not because Kate has a Netflix show. Not because Kate has a lifestyle brand. Not because Kate has a content strategy or a morning routine or a philosophy of gracious entertaining. But because Kate is, at that moment, a person that millions of people across the world genuinely, emotionally care about. Her recovery has moved them. Her resilience has impressed them. Her return is something they have been willing, and they express that investment by reaching for their wallets the moment she appears in public wearing something they can buy. That is lifestyle influence. Real, unmanufactured, emotionally rooted lifestyle influence. It does not come from a camera crew and a Netflix deal. It comes from being, authentically and visibly, a person that an audience has a genuine relationship with. Meghan is attempting to build that relationship through content strategy. Kate has it as a byproduct of being who she is, doing what she does, in public, over time. The gap between those two approaches, and the gap in the commercial results they produce, is the most instructive story in the royal world right now. And I do not say that to diminish what Meghan is attempting. Strategy is not inherently inferior to authenticity. But when they are in competition for the same audience, authenticity wins. It wins consistently. It wins structurally. And there is the Netflix dimension, which compounds everything else. Netflix's content deal with the Sussexes was always time-limited. Streaming platform content deals do not run indefinitely. They run on performance metrics and strategic alignment. They run on the question, is this partnership delivering the content that our platform needs? The Harry and Meghan documentary performed spectacularly. It justified the deal, and then some. With Love, Meghan has not performed in the same way. And within Netflix's content strategy, which is, in 2025, increasingly focused on high-performing reality formats, prestige drama, and documentary content that generates genuine cultural conversation, rather than lifestyle programming that settles quietly into the platform's vast library, the strategic alignment between what the Sussexes can currently produce and what Netflix needs to compete in its market is weakening. The Netflix relationship is under quiet review. The next content commission from the Sussex partnership will need to demonstrate a clearer path to the kind of performance that the original documentary delivered. And what Netflix wants is what its own data tells it an audience will watch, what its own performance metrics prove generates viewing hours, is more of what worked. More palaces, more conflict, more of the story that actually moves the needle. And that is precisely what Meghan has been trying to move away from. The commercial trap is closing. On one side, a streaming platform that wants more royal drama. On the other, a woman who has invested enormously, strategically and personally, in building an identity that exists outside and beyond the royal drama. The two directions are not compatible. And the longer the standoff continues, the louder the silence becomes. So here is where we arrive. Here is the honest, difficult brand strategy truth that nobody in Meghan's immediate circle appears to be saying out loud, at least not in any forum that reaches public discourse. Meghan Markle is genuinely compelling. I do not say that as flattery. I say it as an analytical observation, grounded in evidence. She is articulate. She is passionate. She has real, clearly held, deeply rooted convictions about real issues: racial equity, women's rights, the welfare of children, the mental health conversation that she has advocated for with evident sincerity throughout her adult life. When she speaks about those things, not performing lifestyle aspiration, not demonstrating a tablescaping technique or narrating the provenance of a jar of honey, but actually engaging, in her own voice, with the issues she clearly and genuinely cares about, she is a powerful communicator, a persuasive advocate, a woman whose specific position at the intersection of race and royalty and global media gives her a perspective that is genuinely valuable, genuinely distinctive, genuinely hard to replicate. When Meghan speaks at an advocacy event and the room is with her, you can feel it on camera. You can see it in the response that is real. That is a woman in her authentic power. That is not a performance. That is the real thing. And it is almost entirely disconnected from the commercial strategy she is currently pursuing. Jars of jam. Flower arrangement tutorials. The aesthetics of a Montecito kitchen. The philosophy of a thoughtful dinner party. These are not wrong. They are not shameful. Lifestyle content is legitimate, commercially significant, genuinely valuable. Some very talented, very successful people have built extraordinary enterprises on exactly this foundation. But they are not where Meghan's authentic power lives. They are not what makes her specific. They are not the thing that no one else can do, the thing that only she, with her exact story, her exact background, her exact position in the world, can offer an audience. And audiences, who are sophisticated consumers of media in ways that strategy documents often underestimate, who have developed extraordinarily refined instincts for distinguishing between a person inhabiting their genuine identity and a person performing a carefully constructed one, those audiences are not connecting with the performance. They are politely disengaged. They are watching something and finding it nice and inoffensive and pleasant, and then they are closing the app and watching something else. The path forward for the Sussex brand, if there is a sustainable, commercially durable, culturally significant path forward, probably does not run through as ever jam and Netflix lifestyle shows. It probably runs through advocacy. Through the issues. Through the combination of Harry's Invictus platform, which has genuine emotional weight, genuine international reach, genuine purpose, and Meghan's advocacy voice applied to the causes and conversations where both of them have something really and specific and unrepeatable to say. That version of the Sussex brand is not as aesthetically beautiful as a Montecito kitchen at golden hour. It does not produce the kind of aspirational visual content that lifestyle Instagram was built for. It is messier, more contested, harder to package, and far less immediately monetizable than a jar of jam with a beautiful label. But it is real. And in the content economy of 2025, where audiences have more choices than they have ever had in the history of media, where the competition for attention is so fierce and so relentless that only the most authentic voices consistently cut through, real is the only thing that works with any durability. Real is the scarcest resource in the communication landscape. Real is what people come back for, week after week, year after year. Constructed fades. Authentic compounds. The question for Meghan, as the "with love Meghan" silence extends, and the as ever launch momentum settles into something quieter than the strategy required, is whether she can hear that signal through all the noise of the strategy she has invested so heavily in. Whether she can step back from the constructed version of herself, the warm, aspirational, Californian lifestyle curator that the brand requires. And whether, if she does, if she makes that pivot, if she puts down the tablescaping and picks up the microphone on the issues she actually cares about, whether the audience that walked away from the lifestyle content will come back for the woman who is actually there. That is not a question anyone in Montecito is publicly asking yet. But it is the only question that matters. And the data, the viewership data Netflix is not releasing, the brand momentum that has not fully materialized, the cultural conversation that never quite ignited, is asking it, loudly, in the only language that commerce actually speaks. The silence from Netflix tells you everything. And the silence from Montecito, in response to that silence, tells you the rest. Now, I want to put this directly to you, because this is exactly the kind of question that this channel exists to ask. Do you think Meghan's most powerful platform is lifestyle content? Do you think the world would engage more genuinely with a version of Meghan that stepped away from the brand aesthetic and spoke directly, powerfully on the issues she has spent her entire adult life caring about? Or do you think the lifestyle pivot still has runway, that the show simply needs time, that the As Ever brand will find its audience? Tell me in the comments below. Because this comment section is going to split, and that split is the story. It always is. If this analysis has been useful to you, if this is the kind of forensic, unfiltered, follow-the-data commentary you have been looking for, then please hit the like button right now. It takes 2 seconds, and it makes an enormous difference to whether this channel reaches the people who need to hear it. Subscribe if you have not already. Hit the bell. Because we have 4 topics left in this series, and the final 4 do not zoom in on individual stories. They zoom all the way out and ask the biggest question in the royal world. What does the British monarchy actually look like when William finally takes the throne? What has Charles's reign revealed about the institution's capacity to adapt? And is the crown going to survive what is coming? Those are the conversations that are waiting, and you do not want to miss them.